Jai Harinam Sankirtan ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're beginning text number 5, Nectar of Instruction. Krishna tiyasya giritam manasadriyeta. Dikshasti chet pranatibhischa bhajantamisham. Sushrushaya bhajana vijnana nanyamanya. Nindati sunyam ridam ipsita sangalabhya. Krishna tiyasya giritam manasadriyeta. Dikshasti chet pranatibhischa bhajantamisham. Sushrushaya bhajana vijnana nanyamanya. Nindati sunyam ridam ipsita sangalabhya. Krishna tiyasya giritam manasadriyeta. Dikshasti chet pranatibhischa bhajantamisham. Sushrushaya bhajana vijnana manyanamya. Nindati sunyam ridam ipsita sangalabhya. Chant.
Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta.
Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta.
Dikshasti cheta pranatibhischa bhajantamisham.
Dikshasti cheta pranatibhischa bhajantamisham.
Sushrusaya bhajana vijnanam ananyamanya.
Sushrusaya bhajana vijnanam ananyamanya.
Nindadishunya hidam ipsita sangalabhya.
Nindadishunya hidam ipsita sangalabhya.
Good. Somebody else chant.
Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta.
Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta.
Dikshati chet pranatibhischa bhajantamisham.
Dikshasti chet pranatibhischa bhajantamisham.
Sushrusaya bhajana vignam ananyamanya.
Sushrusaya bhajana vignam ananyamanya.
Nindadishunya hridam ipsita sangalabhya.
Nindadishunya hridam ipsita sangalabhya.
Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta.
Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta.
Dikshasti chet pranatibhischa bhajantamisham.
Dikshasti chet pranatibhischa bhajantamisham.
Sushrushraya bhajana vigyam ananyamanya.
Sushrushraya bhajana vigyam ananyamanya.
Nindati sunya hirdam apsita sangalabhya.
Nindadishunya hridam ipsita sangalabhya.
Krishna.
Krishna.
The holy name of Lord Krishna.
The holy name of Lord Krishna.
Iti. Thus. Yashya. Of whom. Giri. In the words or speech.
In the words or speech.
Tam. Him. Manasa,
Manasa,
by the mind.
by the mind.
Adriyeta,
Adhyeta,
one must honor.
one must honor.
Diksha,
Diksha,
initiation.
initiation.
Asti,
Asti,
there is.
there is.
Chit,
Chit,
if.
if.
Pranatibi,
Pranatibi,
by obeisances.
by obeisances.
Cha,
Cha,
also.
also.
Bhajantam,
Bhajantam,
engaged in devotional service.
engaged in devotional service.
Isham,
Isham,
unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Sushrushaya,
Sushrushaya,
by practical service.
by practical service.
Bhajana Vijnanam,
Bhajana Vijnanam,
without deviation.
one who
Sorry, one who is advanced in devotional service.
is advanced in devotional service.
Ananyam,
Ananyam,
without deviation.
without deviation.
Ananyaninda Adi,
Ananyanindadi,
of blasphemy of others, etc.
of blasphemy of others, etc.
Shunya,
Shunya,
completely devoid.
completely devoid.
Ridham,
Hridam,
whose heart.
whose heart.
Ipsita,
Ipsita,
desirable.
desirable.
Sangha,
Sangha,
association.
association.
Labdhya,
Labdhya,
by gaining.
by gaining.
Translation. One should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation diksha and is engaged in worshipping the deity. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who has advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. Let's just read again that final paragraph from the previous verse where Prabhupada was introducing this topic. Just from the purport of text number 4, the final paragraph. In the next verse, Srila Rupa Goswami informs us what kind of Vaishnava should be selected as a friend and how Vaishnavas should be served. So, we'll read Prabhupada's purport now. In order to intelligently apply the sixfold loving reciprocations mentioned in the previous verse, one must select proper persons who with careful discrimination. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore advises that we should meet with the Vaishnavas in an appropriate way according to their particular status. In this verse, he tells us how to deal with 3 types of devotees: the Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. The Kanishta Adhikari is a neophyte who has received the Harinam initiation from the spiritual master and is trying to chant the holy name of Krishna. One should respect such a person within his mind as a Kanishta Vaishnava. A Madhyama Adhikari has received spiritual initiation from the spiritual master and has been fully engaged by him in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The Madhyama Adhikari should be considered to be situated midway in devotional service. The Uttama Adhikari, or highest devotee, is one who is very advanced in devotional service. An Uttama Adhikari is not interested in blaspheming others. His heart is completely clean and he has attained the realized state of unalloyed Krishna consciousness. According to Srila Rupa Goswami, the association and service of such a Mahabhagavat devotee or perfect Vaishnava are most desirable. All right, so Rupa Goswami continues to give us instruction how to recognize differences, different levels of devotees. We should understand they're all devotees, but not everyone is the same. We say in Bhagavad Gita we learn there are two kinds of people. There's the divine and the demoniac nature. Right? Chapter number 16, divine and demoniac nature. And so if you're not demoniac, then you should be divine. You should be godly, the devotees, godly people. So we may think it's all one. Everyone's the same. Everyone's the same. And if you see Buddhism, in Buddhism, practically all the Buddhist monks are the same. They don't make any distinction between one Buddhist monk. And they have young boys. They have young boys who are Buddhist monks. And they are treated the same way they treat the senior-most Buddhist monks. And that is the Buddhism. You see. They see everything like that. The monks are up and the other people are down. And so people respect the monks almost like gods, almost. They give great honor to them. In Buddhist countries, all the people, they're taught to give respect and to bow, even to little children who are monks. No. They don't know anything really, they're just little children, you know. But and many of these people who are monks, they haven't been monks for very long. You know, they just they come into the monkhood, the priesthood, and they may stay for a little while, then they go away. One of our devotees in Bangkok, her son became a monk because the grandmother, because they're from a Buddhist family, Thai family, and the custom is that before marriage, the son should become a monk. Go and become a monk, and go and live in the monastery, and go out begging with the monks every day, and just live in the monastery. And they should live there for a month, or 3 months, or 6 months, or a year, whatever. They, you know, whatever their vow is, whatever their plan is, they go there and they live in the temple and be a monk. And after they have a ceremony, when they come in, they have a ceremony, they shave their head, and they're given saffron robes to put on, they're given the Buddhist monk robes. And when their time is up, then they go out, they have another ceremony to go out. And they go back home, and get married and whatever. And so, for the Buddhists, they do like that. You know, they don't make any distinction about who is the advanced monk and who's not the monk. You know, everybody is. They use the word prat. I mean, Prabhuda. Prat means monk, actually. But the goal is for everybody to become Buddha. That's their goal. That everyone's going to be Buddha. Whether you're male or female, they become the Buddha. So they have this kind of, but we're quite different. We do see some distinction. However, we don't label people like that. You know, these different levels of devotees are being explained here, but at the same time, it's a bit foolish to think, oh, I'm Uttama Adhikari. If you think you're Uttama Adhikari, this is not the Vaishnava mood. Rather, the Vaishnava mood is to be humble and to think of ourselves low and fallen and unqualified. And somebody may be Kanishta, we should understand that even a Kanishta devotee is an advanced devotee. And he's definitely not an ordinary conditioned soul. Because, as described here, Kanishta, he's undergone spiritual, he's received Harinam initiation, and he's chanting the holy name. So his spiritual life has begun, and he should be honored and respected. Because they've taken initiation, they've accepted the spiritual teacher, and they've taken shelter of the holy name. And so we respect them as a Vaishnava. We have to understand there are different levels of devotees. Somebody may be on the Kanishta platform, somebody is Madhyam, and somebody may be Uttama. But what is important is that they're all devotees and they're practicing the process. Now somebody may be Kanishta, they can advance. They don't have to remain Kanishta. As described here, the Kanishta is a neophyte, so he's just started to chant the holy name. So in the beginning, we will come in, we're Kanishta, and gradually we will advance. We will become Madhyama devotees. And the Madhyama devotees will go on and become Uttama devotees. But everything is the same. The principles are the same. The practice of Krishna consciousness is the same. It's not that, oh, now you're Uttama, we give you a special mantra to chant. Nothing like that. It's the same. The principles, the process of Krishna consciousness is the same. But there are differences, and we will hear what makes the difference between Kanishta and Madhyama and Uttama. Now, just like when we talk about pure devotees, there's different levels of pure devotees. There's pure devotees like Narada Muni. There's pure devotees like Srila Vyasadeva. There are pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada. There are different levels of pure devotees. It's not that all the pure devotees are on the same level. If you read the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which is a book written by Sanatana Goswami, who is the brother of Rupa Goswami. So in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami describes about different devotees, different levels of pure devotees. Now somebody may be doing sadhana bhakti, somebody's doing bhava bhakti, and somebody may be a prema bhakta. They're all pure devotees. But somebody's at the level of sadhana, somebody's at the level of bhava, and someone else is at the level of prema. Different levels of pure devotees. Just like you study our book, Nectar of Devotion. It describes there 3 different levels of devotion. And it's all pure devotion. Now somebody's doing sadhana bhakti, he may not have prema bhakti, he's not at the level of prema, but he's doing sadhana bhakti, he can be a pure devotee. So Rupa Goswami is describing to us here how we can distinguish different devotees. First of all, somebody has undergone Harinam initiation. He's taken Harinam initiation, he's accepted the spiritual master, and he's been given the beads to chant on, he's chanting the holy name. And so, we could say that is Kanishta. Somebody else they're worshipping the deity. They've taken spiritual initiation, not just simply Harinam initiation, but spiritual initiation, and he's engaged in the worship of the deity. And so that person is described to be like a Madhyama Adhikari. And the Uttama Adhikari is described that he is fixed in undeviating devotional service, and his heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. So Rupa Goswami is emphasizing the position of the Uttama, that he doesn't see faults in other people. He may see his own faults. He can be critical of his own self, but he doesn't make a point in criticizing other devotees. So this is an advanced stage of Krishna consciousness. Now we do find people come to Krishna consciousness. His Grace Rabindra Swarup Prabhu is a very senior Srila Prabhupada disciple. He has a PhD in Asian studies, or I don't know what his PhD is in, but he has a PhD in philosophy or something. He's a very scholarly devotee, and he has a lot of realization. And so I remember he was speaking one time, and he was explaining, he said, you know, when we first become devotees, you know, we see all the other devotees like great saints, you know. We first come into the Krishna consciousness movement, and you know, we're just new devotees, and we see all these devotees, you know, with their shaved heads, and they're working so hard. They go out to distribute books, and they have so much energy in the kirtan, and we think, oh, these people are really great souls, you know, and we really respect the devotees in the beginning. But sometimes, after a while, when you start living with the devotees, maybe you come and you start to live with the devotees, and you get closer to them, you start to know them a bit more, then you start to see faults sometimes in devotees. And you start to see faults, and you see their anarthas sometimes, you know, different anarthas manifest. You know, because we're devotees, we're becoming devotees. Prabhupada would often say, to be a Vaishnava is not an easy thing. We're trying to become Vaishnavas. And it takes some time. It takes time to get through the anarthas, to get rid of the anarthas. There may be some rare soul, maybe he was a devotee in the previous life. We don't know. Sometimes, you know, you do get people, they become devotees, they were devotees in their previous life somehow, and they come to Krishna consciousness, and everything is just so easy for them. But it's not like that for everybody. For some people, they come to Krishna consciousness, and everything is just so wonderful, and they're just so blissful. But other people may take some time. We're coming from the material world, conditioned souls. We don't know what we've been doing in our previous lives, and even in this life, before we become devotees. Many of us come from families which were not vegetarian, which were not cultured families very much, and we come into Krishna consciousness, and it's a little difficult in the beginning for us. It takes some time. And so there's some anarthas, and especially living together. Although it's a lot easier for men than it is for women. Prabhupada would say, you can have 100 beards and mustaches under one roof, no problem. But if you have 4 breasts, they'll fight like cat and dog. 4 breasts means 2 ladies, you see. So you have a couple of ladies together, they'll argue and fight with each other. But men, it's a little easier to live together. But still, sometimes there's difficulties, you know, sometimes there are problems. Maybe some people have different anarthas. Some people can't get up in the morning, they're tired and they want to sleep more. Some other people, maybe they snore when they sleep at night. You know, and the devotee said, "You're snoring, Prabhu, I can't sleep for you snore." Like, you know, sometimes these kind of problems, you know. There's always a little difficulties, small things, living together with each other. And it takes tolerance. It takes tolerance to live together with each other, living in the ashram style. When I joined the Krishna consciousness movement, you know, I joined in London in 1971, and we didn't have any dhotis or kurtas or anything. But somehow we were all, you know, we were going out on Harinam, and what did we use for dhotis? I don't know what it was, you know. Some piece of cloth somehow. We got these pieces of cloth, and you know, and we dress up, we tried to look like devotees. We didn't have kurtas or anything. But we would wear sweaters and sometimes jackets as well because it's so cold. Anyway, we would share whatever we had. And we would share the cloth. And we'd do laundry. And because here you're lucky, you can wash clothes and you can hang them up in the daytime and they'll dry. But in England, you know, you may wash your cloth, it may take a week to dry. And I'm not joking. You know, it's so damp and cold place, you know, and we don't get sunshine regularly. And so it's difficult to wash clothes and to dry them. You know, maybe we go to the laundrette once a week or something. We go to the laundrette to wash and put the clothes in a dryer and try to dry them, like that. So it's difficult. That kind of situation, you know, the devotees just sharing everything. I remember we had a box, and we called it the merge. And it was just the merge. It was all pieces of cloth, and you know, just take what you want, you know. It was just a mixture of all different pieces of cloth, and the devotee, if you came to the merge early, you could go through it and pick out the best stuff. But this is how we were living. But we were happy. We were happy because we were chanting and we were doing a lot of Sankirtan. Every day we were just doing Sankirtan, and we were blissful because we're chanting in the holy name every day. We'd go on chanting, we'd come back and chant more, and we lived simply and we shared whatever we had. Later on, you become more possessive. You become more possessive. You say, "Prabhu, that's mine." You know, you get like that. You know, that's my kurta, that's my dhoti, Prabhu. You know, you can't take that. So this kind of mood, you know, and we start to see faults in devotees. And that creates a problem. When we start seeing faults in devotees and become a little argumentative, and sometimes you get people, you know, that we're all living together, and you get somebody who decides, "I don't want to live with all these people, I want to get my own room, you know, I'm going to be on my own, you know, I've got to get some privacy," like that, you know. And so that, and then you separate yourself a little bit, and then, you know, it makes it difficult to get along. So it requires a lot of tolerance, living together in ashram, sharing everything. And certainly, the more we're in Krishna consciousness, the more we'll see good in others. If we're starting to see faults in others, that's not good. We want to always see the good in others. That these devotees are so fired up, they're so good, they're so dedicated to the service of the Krishna consciousness movement. And so that keeps you healthy if you're seeing good in others. But if you're seeing faults in others, it's not good. We have to correct that mind, the tendency of the mind. I was saying in the beginning we think are all great devotees, but then after some time we say familiarity breeds contempt. You get to know the devotees a bit more and you start to understand maybe they're not so pure. Maybe they're not so dedicated as what I thought they were in the beginning. And we start to minimize the position of devotees. That's not good. We want to see good. So that makes a difference between the Uttama and the Kanista. All right, so we'll read a bit more here. It's quite a long purport here for this text. It's an important text, an important section. One should not remain a Kanista Adhikari, one who is situated on the lowest platform of devotional service and is interested only in worshipping the deity in the temple. Such a devotee is described in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Acharyam eva haraye pujam ya shradaye hate natad bhakteshu chaneshu sabhakta prakrita smrita. So, a bhakta prakrita smrita. It means bhakta prakrita, means a materialistic devotee. A person who is very faithfully engaged in the worship of the deity in the temple, but who does not know how to behave toward devotees or people in general, is called a prakrita bhakta or kanista adhikari. So, kanista adhikari or prakrita bhakta. Prakrita bhakta meaning materialistic devotee. Now, actually he's described here that he's very faithfully engaged in the worship of the deity in the temple. So, he's a good, doing good service. He's worshipping the deity very faithfully. But he has a problem. Problem is, he doesn't see Krishna in anybody else. He only sees Krishna in the deity. And he has sometimes a negative mood towards the devotees. So, not necessarily that he's a pujari. Even people who may come to the temple, you get people coming to the temple and you can see sometimes a kanista tendency. Maybe we're all sitting there in the temple room having class and somebody's sitting there speaking and everyone's sitting listening, and then somebody comes in, boom, they ring the bell, and then they shout, Jai Radha Govinda, Jai Radha Madhava, they come before the deity and then they begin to chant their prayers and we're having class. So our whole class is disturbed because this person came in and he was only conscious of the deity. He was not conscious that there are people in the temple room who are engaged in hearing the glories of the deity. He only saw the deity in the temple. He didn't see the devotees. And he didn't see Krishna in the heart of the devotees. So that is kanista tendency. The pujari, some pujaris, they're thinking they're very pure. They're very fortunate. But they don't know somebody else can be more fortunate. Just like the devotees, one time it happened, the devotees, they went to the temple in Vrindavan, this one temple in Vrindavan, and they were looking at the deity worship, and they were thinking, oh, very nice, and they liked the deity worship. And the pujari from the temple came over and said to them, he said, I bless you that in your next life you can take birth in Vrindavan and worship the deity. So the devotees told Prabhupada what this pujari had said to them. And he said, Prabhupada said to the devotees, he said, you should have blessed him that in his next life he could take birth in the Krishna consciousness movement and preach Krishna consciousness all over the world. Just to worship the deity in the temple, that is not very great. But to preach Krishna consciousness all over the world, that is a much better, much more advanced position than somebody who is just worshipping the deity in the temple. So, worshipping the deity, very good, yeah. Not all pujari, now don't think that because somebody's a pujari, he must be kanista. That's not true. One may be a pujari and he may be uttama. You have to consider what is his consciousness, what is his mood in worshipping the deity. Does he only see Krishna in the deity? Does he also respect the devotees? Does he see Krishna in the hearts of the devotees? And does he respect the devotees and appreciate the devotees? That will make the difference. One who is kanista, he will minimize the position of devotees. He will say, oh, these people, they just go out and sell books and make money. They don't know anything. They don't know the real glories of the deity. They don't worship the deity. They're not second initiated. They're not got the Brahmin thread. In this way, he will minimize the activities of the devotees who are preaching. And he will think, the real devotee, he will just worship the deity. So it's good to worship the deity, but it's also good to go out for preaching. Both activities should be taken. We should worship the deity and we should also go out for preaching. If we just worship the deity, the problem is we're not aware of how much suffering there is in the material world. We're just in the temple all day with the deity and we don't appreciate how much people are suffering, how much people are in need of Krishna consciousness. And if we just go out all day and preach and we don't worship the deity, that's also not good, because we will lose our regulation and we will become lazy about our purity. It's important that the deity worship keeps us regulated, and that regulation is very important to control our mind and senses. If we just go out all day on Sankirtan just to distribute books and collect money, it's not so good for our Krishna consciousness. We need to also hear and chant and see the deities and worship the deity. I was in the temple, I was in the USA at one point, and we were doing Sankirtan. And Prabhupada came. an evening program. Prabhupada said, where are all the brahmacharis? And the temple president said, Prabhupada, they're out on Sankirtan. And Prabhupada said, oh, this is not good. He said, they have to come for the program. He said, they have to be at the program. So very important that devotees have to have regulation. They have to, it's not that we sacrifice everything just to make money. But we need to have a balanced program. There has to be deity worship, and there has to be also proper hearing and chanting, and going out for preaching. So both activities are important for us. Is this clear? Sometimes we had devotees, you know, that would go out on Sankirtan, and they just get so much into Sankirtan, they stop coming to temple. You never see and after a while we lose them, because they're just out all day, and they're preaching to people and meeting people, and sometimes they meet the wrong kind of people. Sometimes they meet the young woman, and they get swept away by a young woman. And sometimes they meet a man, the man will say to them, why don't you come and work for me? I'll give you a job, I can, you know, you come and work for me, I'll pay you. You know? And sometimes, you know, people are thinking, maybe I should go and work for this man. You know? And they give up Sankirtan. For some time even we had the program as devotees, because we were beginning our Krishna consciousness movement, and we had to pay for buildings, purchasing buildings. So it was important to make money, to bring money for the temple. And so sometimes devotees got the idea how they could make money. And we would do things like sell paintings, and we would get oil paintings. And they would get these different oil paintings, and devotees would go door to door and office to office, and we would sell oil paintings to people. And it made a lot of money. But the problem was, we lost a lot of devotees. Because the devotees started making money, and they were making so much money, they thought, well, I should just do this myself. Why I should do it for the temple? And after a while, they just stopped being devotees, and they just went off and sold paintings for themselves and made money. But they gave up Krishna consciousness. So that's a risk. It's very dangerous. We have to be very... Therefore, when we do Sankirtan, it's important that we're not too much fruitive. Don't be too much greedy to get people's money. But try to give them Krishna consciousness. That is our business as devotees. They may purchase a book, they may not. We don't mind. We're trying to give them Krishna consciousness. We just want to remind them about Krishna. Any questions? Okay, we're hearing about the Kanishta Adhikari. One therefore has to raise himself from the position of Kanishta Adhikari to the platform of Madhyama Adhikari. The Madhyama Adhikari is described in Srimad Bhagavatam in this way. Eshwaretad adineshu Prima Maitri Kripopeksha Ya Karoti Samadhyama. The Madhyama Adhikari is a devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the highest object of love, makes friends with the Lord's devotees, is merciful to the ignorant, and avoids those who are envious by nature. So Madhyama Adhikari, intermediate devotee, this is a healthy position. We all want to come to the Madhyama Adhikari position. This is the position for preaching one who's a preacher in Krishna consciousness, he should have this kind of mentality. You see four different ways. You see the Supreme Lord, and we offer our worship to the Supreme Lord. We see the devotees, who are our peers, our friends, and we associate with them. We see the innocent, and we give mercy to them. And we see the envious, and the atheistic, and the blasphemers, and we will avoid them. We don't associate with them. So, Madhyama Adhikari makes distinction. Srila Prabhupada was traveling here in India. He went to Indore. And there's a place in Indore, it's called the Gita Bhavan or something. Anyway, Prabhupada was giving a series of lectures there. So Prabhupada was preaching quite strongly at one point and denouncing people, rascals, nonsense, like this. And one man who was listening to it, he got disturbed because Prabhupada was calling people rascals and stupid and like that. And Prabhupada said, the man said to Prabhupada, he said, why do you make so much distinction? Why you're so critical of people? And he said, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Samo Pandita Darshana. A learned person will see everyone equally. Right? You know the verse, 5th chapter? Yeah, right? So the man was saying, Krishna said we should see everyone equal. And Prabhupada said, I am not on that platform. Prabhupada said, he said, you may say like that. He said, I am not on that platform. I don't see everyone equally. I have to see fault. I have to speak out. So the man was a little disturbed. But then afterwards the devotees were talking to the man, and they explained to the man how Srila Prabhupada is preaching the Bhagavad Gita all over the world. That Srila Prabhupada not just simply sitting in India, but he's traveling around the world preaching Krishna consciousness to everyone without discrimination. And so when the man heard that, then he said, oh, very good. He understood that is real equality, real equal vision. He's speaking the Bhagavad Gita to everyone. He's not thinking that this person's not qualified, but he's giving this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to the whole world. He's not thinking this is just for Hindus, or this is just for certain class of people, but he's speaking to everyone, giving everyone this knowledge. So Madhyama Adhikari, he does make distinction. He will avoid the atheists and blasphemers. Why? Because if we try to preach to them, somebody may be a blasphemer, may be atheistic, we try to preach to him, he'll become more offensive. That's the problem. They become more offensive if we preach to them. So better to avoid them. By their karma, they're not able to hear the glories of Bhagavad Gita and the message of Krishna. They just simply become angry and they become more offensive. So, better just to stay away from them. Just like we heard yesterday, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada said, don't have anything to do with the Mayavadis. These people who are impersonalists, and they're aparadas, they're offenders to the Lord. Don't give them any charity and don't take any charity from them. Just avoid them, stay away from them. So these people who are atheists and blaspheme, we stay away from them. Just leave them. This is it's their doing. We cannot do anything to help them. You can help the animals, the wild animals in the forest. You can give them mercy. But these people who are atheists and blasphemers, then you can't do anything to help these people. So just stay away from them. This is the way to cultivate devotional service properly. Therefore, in this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami has advised us how to treat various devotees. We can see from practical experience that there are different types of Vaishnavas. The Prakrita Sahajas generally chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, yet they are attached to women, money, and intoxication. Although such persons may chant the holy name of the Lord, they are not yet properly purified. Such persons should be respected within one's mind, but their association should be avoided. Those who are innocent but simply carried away by bad association should be shown favor if they are eager to receive proper instructions from pure devotees. But those neophyte devotees who are actually initiated by the bona fide spiritual master and are seriously engaged in carrying out the order of the spiritual master should be offered respectful obeisances. So Srila Prabhupada is describing how there are these kind of devotees, Prakrita Sahajas. Sahajas, meaning they take everything very cheaply. And they're around, you don't have to look very far, especially if you're in Bengal. My goodness, Bengal, Bangladesh as well. I haven't been to Bangladesh, but I've heard a lot of stories about it. And there's a lot of Vaishnavism there, but there's all kinds of different deviations and different cults. So here Prabhupada's talking about the Prakrita Sahajas. He says they're attached to women and money and intoxication. But they chant Hare Krishna. So they're chanting Hare Krishna. So we respect them within our mind, but we don't associate with them. There are all kinds of different deviations from the bona fide disciplic succession. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, they identified these different people, different groups of Sahaja devotees. You get people, for example, they have some people, they give you a mantra and they'll tell you this is your mantra for your spiritual body. They'll say you meditate on this mantra. They'll say actually in the spiritual world you are a peacock and you have to, this is your mantra for your meditating on your spiritual body. And in this way people become intoxicated and become carried away. They think, oh, I'm in the spiritual world, I have this rasa, and they will meditate on. So this is not bona fide. This is not the process of Krishna consciousness. We have to be very careful who we associate with. You get people from Radhakund, and you get these people from Radhakund, they will say, at last the real message of Mahaprabhu can be told. And they don't accept what is taught by people like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he went to Radhakund and he gave a lecture to the Babajis. So all the Babajis, at first they all came and sat down, but then when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur began to speak on the Upanishads, then they all got up and went away. They didn't want to hear the Upanishads. They wanted to hear Gopi Bhav and Rasa Leela. Srila Prabhupada went to Chennai in 1971 and he was staying with one family there. One couple had invited Srila Prabhupada there, and the couple came, the husband and wife came to Srila Prabhupada and said, Swamiji, we want to hear Rasa Leela from you. So Prabhupada said, oh, I'm sorry, no, I cannot speak Rasa Leela. And they begged Prabhupada again and again, please Swamiji, we want to hear Rasa Leela from you. We know you can speak on it. Please tell us about Rasa Leela. And Prabhupada finally said to them, he said, well, you may be qualified to hear Rasa Leela, but I am not qualified to speak it. And in this way, Prabhupada just opted out. He didn't want to satisfy their material desires. So, you do get different devotees like this. They're devotees, but materialistic devotees. And often you may say, sahajas. Just like when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going to Shantipur one time with Lord Nityananda, they were coming down along the Ganga, going down to Shantipur, and they met the sannyasi. They thought he was a sannyasi. He was in saffron robes, and he had long hair and a big beard. And then they saw the house where he'd come from, there was some woman there. So they wondered, what kind of sannyasi is this, you know? He was in saffron dress, but then he had the woman there in the house. And he came out and he was speaking to Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, and he was telling them, come over to my place. He said, we will have some happiness together. We can enjoy some Ganga Jal together. And Lord Chaitanya looked at Lord Nityananda and said, what does he mean? And Lord Nityananda said, he means he wants us to come and drink alcohol with him. And so immediately Lord Chaitanya ran towards the Ganga and threw himself in the Ganga and swam down the Ganga. And Lord Nityananda followed. And so you get people like that, you know. They're talking like this, they're dressed like sadhus, and they may chant the holy name, but they have a lot of material attachments, material desires. And so we respect them in the mind, but don't associate closely with them. We have to be very careful. In the Krishna consciousness movement, a chance is given to everyone without discrimination of caste, creed, or color. Everyone is invited to join this movement. Sit with us, take prasadam, and hear about Krishna. When we see that someone is actually interested in Krishna consciousness and wants to be initiated, we accept him as a disciple for the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. When a neophyte devotee is actually initiated and engaged in devotional service by the orders of the spiritual master, he should be accepted immediately as a bona fide Vaishnava, and obeisances should be offered unto him. Out of many such Vaishnavas, one may be found to be very seriously engaged in the service of the Lord and strictly following all the regulative principles, chanting the prescribed number of rounds on japa beads, and always thinking of how to expand the Krishna consciousness movement. Such a Vaishnava should be accepted as an Uttama Adhikari, a highly advanced devotee, and his association should always be sought. So you can see how Srila Prabhupada describes the Uttama Adhikari here. He's described here that he's always thinking how to expand the Krishna consciousness movement. So Uttama Adhikari, it's not that you have to, become Haridas Thakur and just chant the holy name 64 rounds every day. But we do have to dedicate ourselves to distributing Krishna consciousness. Not just to enjoy Krishna consciousness ourselves, but to give Krishna consciousness to others. That is the Uttama Adhikari. That he's actually thinking of the welfare of others. And he's very dedicated to that. Now Uttama Adhikaris, they may also come down to the Madhyam platform for the sake of preaching. Because the Madhyama Adhikari, he will make distinction. Uttama Adhikari, he won't make distinction. He'll want to give Krishna consciousness everywhere, to everyone, without any consideration. But the Madhyama Adhikari, he will make distinction. Who is actually serious? Who is genuine? So there's a difference there. The process by which a devotee becomes attached to Krishna is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Diksha kale bhakta kare atma samarpana. Okay. So Diksha kale, at the time of initiation, when a devotee fully surrenders to the service of the Lord, Krishna accepts him to be as good as he himself. So this should be understood carefully. It doesn't mean that everyone who gets initiation, that they've actually come to this level. But it says, at the time of initiation, when a devotee fully surrenders to the service of the Lord. So they have to fully surrender. It's not only just take initiation, but when they have fully surrendered to the service of the Lord, then Krishna accepts him to be as good as he himself. So initiation is good, but it's not just only initiation, not just the ritual, but it's fully surrendering to the Lord. Sometimes people come and they get initiation, they think, that's it. Now I'm back to Godhead, now I don't have to do any more. After they get initiation, you don't see them anymore. They don't come to temple anymore even. No, I'm already initiated, I'm already back to Godhead. So you get people like that. It's difficult. We have to understand what is actually required. It's not just only initiation, but it's surrendering to Krishna. So Diksha, or spiritual initiation, is explained in Bhakti Sandarbha by Srila Jiva Goswami. Divyam Jnanam Yato Dadyat By Diksha, one gradually becomes, note the word, gradually becomes disinterested in material enjoyment and gradually becomes interested in spiritual life. Understand, it's not just immediate diksha, finished with material life, no more material desires, now I am a pure devotee. No, diksha is the beginning, initiation, the beginning. We have to go on from there. So, Jiva Goswami describes, gradually we become disinterested. If you follow the process, you engage in the process of bhakti yoga, regularly hearing and chanting, then gradually you become disinterested in material. You forget about the cricket matches, right? You forget about the latest Bollywood movies. You forget about the stock market. You forget all that. We just become, we're only thinking Krishna, right? We're thinking Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. We're not thinking anymore the mundane world, the Maya. We're not thinking the job and the multinational companies. We're just simply thinking Krishna and Krishna's service. So that comes about gradually. Gradually, we train the mind. We have to hear, and we have to hear for some considerable time. It takes time. That's why Rupa Goswami said, patience, one of the things which is required. We have to be patient and practice Krishna consciousness. We have seen many examples of this, especially in Europe and America. Many students who came to us from rich and respectable families quickly lose all interest in material enjoyment and become very eager to enter into spiritual life. Although they come from wealthy families, many of them accept living conditions that are not very comfortable. Indeed, for Krishna's sake, they are prepared to accept any living condition as long as they can live in the temple and associate with the Vaishnavas. When one becomes so disinterested in material enjoyment, he becomes fit for initiation by the spiritual master. For the advancement of spiritual life, Srimad Bhagavatam prescribes tapasya brahmacharyena samena cha damena cha. When a person is serious about accepting diksha, he must be prepared to practice austerity, celibacy, and control of the mind and body. If one is so prepared and is desirous of receiving spiritual enlightenment, divyam jnanam, he is fit for being initiated. Divyam jnanam is technically called tadvijnana, or knowledge about the Supreme. Tadvijnanatam sagurum evam abhigachet. When one is interested in the transcendental subject matter of the absolute truth, he should be initiated. Such a person should approach a spiritual master in order to take diksha. Srimad Bhagavatam also prescribes tasmad gurum prapadyeta jignasu shreya uttamam. When one is actually interested in the transcendental science of the absolute truth, he should approach a spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada is describing what is desirable for a person who wants to enter into Krishna consciousness movement. What is the process of getting initiation? And Prabhupada mentions how sometimes you have to live in simple conditions. Just like when the devotees first came to India, Prabhupada, after some time, he purchased that land at Juhu. And in the 1970s, Juhu was quite a different place from how it is today. And just beside the land, it was just like a swamp. It was swamp, you know. And there was mosquitoes, so many mosquitoes. And they had no proper facilities. There was no running water. It was just hand pumps. And the devotees were sleeping in tents. They had some tents constructed. And in this way, the devotees were living in Juhu. And it was very primitive conditions. But somehow the devotees didn't like living there, you know. But Prabhupada insisted that they should keep that land there and that we would build the temple there. So in those days, it was quite challenging to be a devotee. Living in the temple meant accepting a lot of inconveniences, sharing everything, and sometimes even maybe the diet or the prasadam would not be so satisfying. There were many challenges. But Prabhupada wanted that devotees would accept these austerities. This is part of the purification process. Tapasya brahmacharyena samena cha damena cha. So brahmacharya means also practicing celibacy, living with the man, not living. Even married people would separate from their wives. Men would live in the ashram. The women would live in the ladies' ashram. And in this way they would practice celibacy. So Prabhupada saw when people would do like that, then he understood they were serious about spiritual life. And he would accept them, give them initiation. Nowadays, of course, our movement is much more congregation-based. You get a lot of people initiated, they're not living in the temple. So difficult to know how well they practice and what standards they practice. But when you live in the temple, then you're very fortunate, because very quickly can make advancement. Very quickly you get purified, because you're living with all the devotees. You wake up together every day. You know, when you live outside, you live at home, just like sometimes devotees will go home, they'll go and visit their parents and like that, and they go home and they won't wake up very early. And then, you know, there will be television on or something. There'll be so many things to deviate the mind from Krishna. But when you're with the association of devotees, it's very nice. Everything is very clear and very easy what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to be Krishna conscious. So, some devotees, they will make a point that if the family want to see the devotee, they will tell the family, come to the temple and see me. Rather than them going home, they will say, you come and see me. And then when they come to temple, then you can give them prasadam, And you can show them the deities and everything. But when you go home, if you go home, you go back into the material world. A lot of Maya. So it's better to stay in the Krishna conscious temple. At the same time, we understand, things do change, and you have a lot of people now who want to become devotees. They are maybe in married life. They have their families, but they want to be devotees. So yeah, they can also be devotees. We encourage them, yeah, you pray. But, of course, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's much easier if you're able to live in the ashram and be with the devotees. And people can make advancement much quicker. Prabhupada, of course, said, I never lived in the temple. Prabhupada never lived in the brahmachari ashram. And he said, I could never live in that. I wouldn't have been able to live the way they live. The Gaudiya Math, how they lived. That was not very, very attractive. After Prabhupada took Vanaprastha, then he came and he took up some service, he would do some editorial work and so on. And sometimes he would live in the different ashrams. But generally, Prabhupada didn't stay in any one ashram. He was pretty much independent. And then finally he went to America. So Prabhupada didn't mind that people didn't stay in the temple, but he just wanted that if they're not staying in the temple, you have to do all the things which people stay in the temple do. Right? Just like people in the temple, they wake up early in the morning, so you stay at home, you should wake up early in the morning also. Because you're staying at home doesn't mean you can sleep late. You have to also get up early. Just like Lord Krishna, as a householder, he would wake up early in the morning. He'd wake up for Brahma Muhurta to chant the Gayatri Mantra. And so, people are not living in the temple, they have to do all the things which we do in the temple. You have to do your puja, you have to offer Mangal Arti, you have to worship Tulsi, you have to chant japa. And Prabhupada would do all of that. When Prabhupada was not staying in the temple, he was staying home, he would do all of that. He'd been a devotee all of his life. So, we encourage people, yeah, it's good. Be a devotee, chant Hare Krishna, wake up, read the books, read the scriptures. You have a job, you have to work, okay, that's all right. Devotees are also working, devotees are also not lazy people. Devotees are going out every day, going out for preaching and book distribution. Other devotees are cooking, other devotees are doing puja work. Everybody's working. Okay, you have a job in an office, all right, that's all right. But still you have to chant. And you have to chant minimum 16 rounds. Then you can get initiation. Prabhupada would never compromise on 16. If the people were not chanting 16 rounds, he'd tell them, then wait. When you chant 16 rounds, then you can think about initiation. One time in Hawaii, there were these young men. They were tennis players. They were professional tennis coaches. And they were chanting Hare Krishna. They were chanting, but they said to Prabhupada, they said, we can only chant 12 rounds. They said, we're not able to chant 16 rounds because we spend the whole day coaching and we do a lot of training and running. And said, we can't chant 16 rounds, but we can chant 12 rounds. Prabhupada wouldn't initiate them. Prabhupada said, first you chant 16 rounds, then you can ask initiation. Some people say, oh, if we just had to follow 3 principles, why 4 principles? If we just follow 3 principles, it will be much easier. Prabhupada would say no. Must be 4 principles. If you don't follow 4 principles, then you're not pure devotee. Means you're engaging in sinful activities. But 4 principles, that's pure devotion. Everyone who's following 4 principles and 16, that's pure devotion. It may be the lowest level of pure devotion, but it's pure devotion. And they can always go on from there and advance more and more. Okay. One should not accept a spiritual master without following his instructions. Nor should one accept a spiritual master just to make a fashionable show of spiritual life. One must be jignasu, very much inquisitive, to learn from the bona fide spiritual master. The inquiries one makes should strictly pertain to transcendental science. Jignasu Shreya Uttamam. The word Uttamam refers to that which is above material knowledge. Tama means the dark adhikari. So the Madhyama adhikari, serious devotee, follows the instructions of the spiritual master. All of the instructions. That is important. Sometimes, just like yesterday, we were hearing, what did Prabhupada say? How much you're supposed to give to the Krishna conscious movement? 50%, right? 50%. So that is following. Those people who are strict followers, they'll do that. They'll want to give 50%. And similarly, Prabhupada gave a lot of instructions. You have to wake up in the morning, 4 o'clock. By 4 o'clock, have to be up. No sleeping late. So Prabhupada he said, devotees of Krishna, they don't sleep till 8 o'clock in the morning and wake up and have a cup of tea like people do. And you go on the train, sometimes you're on the train and you see people how they live. They will sleep so late in the morning. They will sleep late at night and they get up late in the morning. They have a very different lifestyle. And so we have to follow all the instructions of the spiritual master. Even the little details, we think, oh, just a little detail, we have to follow. So that is training. We have to hear. What are the instructions of the spiritual master? What are we supposed to be doing? How should we be living? How to arrange our life? So Srila Prabhupada gave a lot of instructions. He took devotees with him. When they first came to India, devotees were with Prabhupada. Prabhupada was with them, training them. Then he sent them back, go and train up the other people. So practicing Krishna consciousness it requires that commitment to the order of the spiritual master. The life and soul of the disciple. Right? Prabhupada got inspired by the purport to the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Vaya Vashayatmika Buddhi Ekeha Kuranandana. Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur had written purport on this verse and describing that the order of the spiritual master becomes the life and soul of the disciple. And Srila Prabhupada reflected on that and he reflected on his own Guru Maharaj's desire, how he wanted him to distribute the holy name of Krishna, how he wanted him to preach Krishna consciousness everywhere. The English-speaking world. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had told him that you are good in English, you can use it to preach in English-speaking places. And so Prabhupada reflected on that and he thought, this means I should go to America. Other people were thinking England, but Prabhupada didn't think England, Prabhupada thought America. He thought better to go to the USA, go there. And this was 1960s. You know, hardly any Indians were there in America at that time. Very difficult. But Prabhupada somehow, by the arrangement of Krishna, was successful. So when the spiritual master gives an order, we should not think, oh, impossible. We shouldn't think, oh, very difficult. No, we should think the spiritual master has given the order, we have to do it. We have to do it. Just like we would distribute books. Well, first of all, Prabhupada organized the BBT, how they had to print the books. And there were many books Prabhupada had been translating, and many books hadn't been published. So Prabhupada gave them an ultimatum that you have to get all the books printed within a few months. I don't want to be waiting anymore, that you're taking too long. And so they went on a great marathon and they printed all the books, all the volumes of Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. They had a whole crew of people engaged. They were working day and night, doing the editing and typesetting to get the books printed. And then after the books were all printed, then Prabhupada wants the books to be distributed. And so that was another marathon, the book distribution marathon. There was the book publishing marathon, then there was the book distribution marathon. So get the books out, and then, of course, when the books are printed, if the books are not distributed, then it's difficult to get the whole set. So, but when once the books are distributed, then they can start to think about printing the whole set, make the sets. Initially, we were just printing one volume. You'd offer someone a volume, the 6th canto, part 2, you know. Yeah. They'd say, where's part 1? Where's the other 5 cantos? You know, we're distributing like that. This was in the beginning, to get the books, to bring the BBT to that position that they could print the whole set. And so we had to do these things. So this is the order of the spiritual master. With the order of the spiritual master, then comes the empowerment. That he's empowering, giving you the mercy to go and do it. We should have that enthusiasm, that dedication to the order. So Prabhupada got inspired from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport, and he went off to America to try to preach Krishna consciousness. So in the same way, we are trying to preach Krishna consciousness everywhere, here in Hyderabad, in Attarpur, everywhere. We want to distribute this message of Lord Krishna. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Nagaradi Gram, the holy name would be heard and chanted in every town and village all over the world. And so wherever we get the opportunity, we have to chant, we have to preach. Devotees are everywhere. Prabhupada said the devotees are everywhere. They're just waiting for us to come and find them. We have to be out there. If we're not out there, they don't know where we are. They don't know. Oh, I didn't know there's a temple in Attarpur. You know, it's a new thing. So it's very important that we're We're thinking in this way, how to give Krishna consciousness. The chanting of the holy name of Krishna is so sublime that if one chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra offenselessly, carefully avoiding the 10 offenses, he can certainly be gradually elevated to the point of understanding that there is no difference between the holy name of the Lord and the Lord Himself. One who has reached such an understanding should be very much respected by neophyte devotees. One should know for certain that without chanting the holy name of the Lord offenselessly, one cannot be a proper candidate for advancement in Krishna consciousness. In Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said, Yahara Komala Shraddha Se Kanista Jana Krame Krame Teho Bhakta Hibe Uttama. One whose faith is soft and pliable is called a neophyte. But by gradually following the process, he will rise to the platform of a first-class devotee. Let's read this again. One whose faith is soft and pliable is called a neophyte. But by gradually following the process, he will rise to the platform of a first-class devotee. So we should not be discouraged. Oh, I'm a Kanishta. Rather, we're on the path. We're on the path to becoming first-class devotees. Just like if you're in the shower, nobody can criticize you for being dirty. Oh, Prabhu, look at the dirt. You're so dirty. Look, I'm in the shower. Just give me a minute. Just let me get showered and I'll be clean. So the same way, we're devotees. We're chanting Hare Krishna. We're following the process. I may be Kanishta today, but it doesn't mean I'm going to remain Kanishta. You follow the process, you go on, you'll become a very advanced devotee. We come to the Krishna consciousness movement, we didn't know anything. But once we come into Krishna consciousness, gradually, we're hearing about Krishna, we awaken knowledge of Krishna. And you're right, you not only give lectures, you can publish books and write articles. You can become an author. We could never imagine before becoming devotees that we could ever do such a thing. Before becoming devotees, we never thought we would be sitting, giving lectures to people, to audiences. But once we become devotee, it just happens naturally, it just goes on all the time. That you're giving talks, you're asked to speak. People want to hear about the Krishna consciousness movement. So we have to be prepared. The example was given about the mango, that you have the green mango, but gradually it becomes the ripe mango, becomes sweet. And so the same way, the seed is planted, the seed is growing, and one day the fruit will come. Everyone begins devotional life from the neophyte stage. But if one properly finishes chanting the prescribed number of rounds of Hari Nam, he is elevated step by step to the highest platform, Uttama Adhikari. The Krishna consciousness movement prescribes 16 rounds daily because people in the Western countries cannot concentrate for long periods while chanting on beads. Therefore, the minimum number of rounds is prescribed. However, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati used to say that unless one chants at least 64 rounds of japa, 100,000 names, he is considered fallen, patita. According to the calculation, practically every one of us is fallen. But because we are trying to serve the Supreme Lord with all seriousness and without duplicity, we can expect the mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is famous as Patita Pavan, the deliverer of the fallen. So, Srila Prabhupada is quoting here Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, how he wanted everyone to chant 64 rounds. So chanting 64 rounds a day, that takes about 8 hours to chant 64 rounds. Haridas Thakur, of course, was chanting 192 rounds, 3 lakh names. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wanted people to chant 1 lakh names. 1 lakh names, 64 rounds is considered a good measure. But of course, in the times of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, it was a little different. I was reading Bhakti-Vikas Swami's book about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and he describes there how in the ashram of the Gaudiya Math, there were some people, they would chant 64 rounds every day before they would even eat anything. They would chant the whole morning, 64 rounds. And other people, they would be chanting at the same time working. Maybe somebody's working in the garden, somebody is working in the kitchen, somebody's going to the market, but they would be chanting the rounds when they're doing all these activities. And in this way, somehow, they would complete 64 rounds. So it's certainly possible to chant 64 rounds. Sometimes we do get devotees, they do japa retreats. Have any of you ever been on a japa retreat? Sometimes they have japa retreats. I know His Holiness Bhakti Bhagavat Maharaj, Brihad Bhagavat Maharaj. He likes to do japa retreats sometimes. And he likes to get devotees to chant 64 rounds in a day. To spend a day to chant 64 rounds. It's not Prabhupada's program. Rather, we heard Prabhupada's program. Prabhupada understood that to get people to chant 64 rounds was going to be difficult. And so he gave the concession, 16 rounds, but engaging all day in the service of Krishna. So in other words, you chant 16 rounds of japa, and then you go for Sankirtan, and you do book distribution, or you have Harinam Sankirtan, or you do some other service for Krishna. But if you do 64 rounds, then the problem is sometimes people just want to sit and chant. They don't do any service. They just sit and chant. And Prabhupada thought it's more purifying for them to do service. There was one lady in the temple. Prabhupada asked the devotee, he said, what does this lady do here in the temple? And the temple president said to Prabhupada, he said, Srila Prabhupada, it takes her all day to chant 16 rounds. He says she doesn't do any service. And Prabhupada said, oh, this is not good. She must do some service. Everyone must do some service. So service, by serving the devotees, then people will certainly get purification, right? Shrushushrosha dadanashya vasudev kataruchi. Shanmahat sevaya vipra. By serving those devotees who are free of sin, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the message of Vasudeva. So, hearing is very important. So, we want to develop a taste for hearing by service. Service is very helpful. When I was a new devotee, I always used to sleep in the class. Then they came to me and said, you should go to the kitchen and help. So go down the kitchen and start cutting the vegetables, and at the same time I could hear the speaker, I could hear the class. And so after I've been cutting vegetables and helping in the kitchen for some time, then I was more eager to go to class and more eager to pay attention in the class. Sometimes we don't always appreciate how important it is to hear and how we want to hear carefully. So it's important for us to understand the order of the spiritual master, the importance of chanting the holy name. Sometimes they say of all the instructions of the spiritual master, the most important one is the chanting of at least 16 rounds. You must finish your 16 rounds. It may take you all day, it may take you maybe even the evening, maybe you have to stay up late, maybe you've been busy all day, you didn't get all your rounds done, you still have to finish. Don't take rest until you finish your rounds. That's a healthy philosophy. All right, are there any questions? Yes?
So, when like during Prabhupada lectures on Wednesday, they show on TV. So Prabhupada is speaking line to line, and in my situation, the mind wants to go ahead and just reads ahead what is there. Like when you are reading now also, now my mind was going ahead what is there and started reading. So instead of focusing on hearing what you are speaking, it just is going ahead. So what is it? What to do in that situations? Why it wants to go ahead instead of hearing?
Why it wants to go ahead instead of hearing? Well, we're thinking that what you're hearing is not important. You're thinking that, oh, I just need to read the book. You're thinking, we may be thinking like that, oh, if I can read everything is there in the book, I don't need to hear anything. And so you minimize the importance of the hearing. So, you have to be careful with the mind. You're reading the book, all right, you read the book, there should be some questions. You're reading the book, you should have some questions. You've been reading the book carefully, then you should be thinking about it. Are you sure you understand everything there in the book? Is there no questions? You don't have any doubts about anything which is in the book? You have to utilize your intelligence. Prabhupada said we should be jignasu. We should be inquisitive to understand them. So it's good you read the book, but why you read the book only when you come to class? You come to class to hear. You don't come to class to read the book. You've got the rest of the time to read the book. In the nature of the mind, when you're supposed to be hearing class, you want to read the book. When there's no class, do you read the book? When there's no class, we don't read the book. This is the problem. This is the mind, you see. You're controlled by the mind. We have to discipline the mind. The mind doesn't want to submit. The mind doesn't want to surrender. Mind thinks, I can just read the book. I don't need to hear. But we do have to hear. It's important for us to hear. It's important for us to hear, and it's important for us to inquire. This is the process of devotional service. Yes?
Maharaj, his
question is like a lot of devotees, they get initiated, and after that they have lot of material attachments, like they do job or something like that. Like they will advance in their spiritual life, or that is it, that they will stay on that platform?
Well, it depends on them. If they're going to follow the instructions of the spiritual master, they will advance. They got initiation, they made a vow to follow 4 regulative principles and to chant 16 rounds, they must make advancement. If they're chanting every day faithfully, they will make advancement. If they're taking the advantage that they've undergone initiation, they should go on and engage in service. They should do some service. They're supposed to serve. The temple recommends them for initiation, so they should be doing they should be engaged in some kind of service. They may have a job, but they have to also find some time to do some service for Krishna. It's not just only I have a job, so I can't do anything. No, you have to chant 16 rounds. You took initiation, you made a vow, you promised. You have to follow the vow, you keep your vow. Then you will make advancement. You read Prabhupada's books regularly, you'll make advancement. But if you don't follow, you think, I'm initiated, it's okay, and then some days you chant, some days you don't. Some days you read the book, some days you don't. Sometimes you go to temple. Oh, there's a festival, a big festival, we go to temple. And you say, oh, well, anyway, I'm a grihastha. Anyway, I have a job. Then you won't make advancement. You have to want to make advancement. If you want to make advancement, then you follow the process.
His question is that when he reads Prabhupada books, so he doesn't understand, and also he doesn't remember the things which are mentioned in the books. So what can he do, like, to remember the things?
Well, he reads the book, he doesn't understand. So he has to ask, what is the thing he does not understand? Yeah, you have to, when you read the book, you're saying you don't understand, so what is it you don't understand? You have to come and ask, what is it? But keep reading, even you don't understand, you keep reading. And gradually one day you will understand. Prabhupada said also, he said, I used to go and hear my spiritual master. I could not understand what he was talking about. But I did not go away. I kept hearing. And gradually you will understand. Yes, in the beginning, it's new. The language is different. It's a whole different way of thinking. There are many words, many terms which are new. You have to hear and hear and hear. Don't give up. Keep hearing. And then gradually will become clear. There was this one young lady, she wrote to Prabhupada and she wrote all these questions. She had so many questions. And Prabhupada wrote back to her and said, you just chant Hare Krishna very nicely and go back to Godhead and all your questions will be answered. Prabhupada didn't get into answering all her questions. He just told her, you just chant Hare Krishna and at the end of life you'll go back to Godhead and Krishna will answer all your questions. You'll get the answer there. Yeah?
Even if we have some questions in this material world, we still go back to Godhead, or we have to clear in this life?
We have questions. Well, you have to consider, is your question really important? What is it? What is this question? You know, we have questions, we have doubts. We have questions, who's God? Who am I? What's my relationship with? You know, we have these kind of questions. So we have to understand what's important. You can certainly get the answers to your questions. You read Prabhupada's books. Everything is there in Prabhupada's books. Sometimes people think, oh, Prabhupada, I have this question. Prabhupada would tell them, you go take this book, open the book at this page, you'll find the answer. Devotees would be amazed. They'd find the answers to their question. They never saw it there, but Prabhupada knew the answer was there in the book. So everything is there in Prabhupada's books. You read Prabhupada's books, all your questions will be answered. Just like there's that one pastime, the one big professor came to see Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He said, I have many questions I want to ask you. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, I'm very busy just now. He said, could you just go with him for a minute, just go and help him? And this one man took the professor away with them. And they went to the kitchen, there was a big pile of pots. And they had to wash all the pots. Then they had to clean all the arctic paraphernalia and polish all the arctic paraphernalia. So it took a long time. But the professor was there helping, doing everything. So after several hours, they finished everything. So then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati came and said, so do you still have questions? He said, no, all my questions are answered now. By service, everything is revealed. You do service, all your questions will be answered. So we may think, I have so many questions, so many things I don't understand. But if you just serve, you just do service for Krishna, Krishna reveals everything. I give the understanding by which they may come to me. Yes?
His question is that, as you told that in the beginning, we see every devotee as a very great devotee, but later on, due to familiarity, we start finding fault. So his question is that how to remove the tendency to find, or fault finding tendency.
By glorifying the devotees, by praising the devotees and serving the devotees. Instead of seeing faults, see good. Speak the praise of the devotees, appreciate the devotees, and serve the devotees. That will take away the tendency to find fault. Just like devotee came to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and he was complaining, you know, this devotee, it's all many faults, he's doing this, he's doing that. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said to the man, he said, does the devotee do any good? And then the devotee thought for a minute, he said, well, he leads a nice kirtan. So then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, well, why don't you say that? You only come with faults. You only talk about his faults. Why don't you just say he does nice kirtan? So like that. See the good. Don't be like the fly, always go to the sower. Be like the bee, go to the honey. Take the honey. The fly always goes to the sower, to the infected, contaminated area. Be like the bee, go to the honey, take the nectar. So see the good in the devotees. Don't see the faults. Yes?
Maharaj, his question is that a lot of people outside, they say, karma hi puja hai. So instead of doing the real worship of the Lord, if you do the karma, you will get the same benefit of doing the worship. So, and they are in that illusion and they think they will go back home, back to Godhead by doing karma hi puja, this thing.
Yeah, they're fools. What can we say? Where is this philosophy in the scripture? Where in the scriptures? Krishna never says work is worship. Krishna says, engage your mind in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer your obeisances, worship me. Krishna tells us different things. You think you know better than Krishna? Work is worship. That's your ignorance. Who are you? You're worshipping. What are you worshipping? You're simply worshipping. You're only working to get money. You want to get money for your sense gratification. Your work is not worship. So that worship which you're saying, that is not pleasing to Krishna. You work in the factory, and you say this is your worship for Krishna. Yes, it is if you give the results of your work. If you give the results of your work, then you could say it's worship. But it's not just simply work alone. Work alone is worship. You have to give the results of your work. Then you'll be benefited. So work. You work, okay, we don't mind you working, that's all right. We're also working. We're working for Krishna. You're working, you're saying your work is worship? Who are you worshipping? You're worshipping the factory? No, we have to understand what is actual worship. Offer a leaf, a flower, fruit, water with love and devotion. That is worship. All that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, you do it as an offering unto me. All right, so you're working, you give the results of your work. You don't just work and take the results all for yourself. You have to give the result to Krishna. So people talk so many nonsense things, but they don't follow. All right? Okay, so we will stop here today. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki.
His Holiness Bhakti Vigna Swami Maharaj ki.
Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki.